Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, non-binary, distinguished guests, welcome to Ridiculous, the Life of a Clown.
Hello, Veronica. If you could start by telling us who you are and what you do.
Hey, thank you for having me. Well, my name is Veronica Blair, and I am an aerialist from San Francisco, California. I've been performing in circuses and various productions for about 20 years now. I am the founder and director of the Uncle Junior Project, which is a project that highlights the achievements of African American circus performers, people of African descent. And I am also a bit of a choreographer and aerial director for celebrity cruises.
Oh, I didn't know that part. I knew the first two parts kind of, but not the third part. So that is new to me. So
Yeah.
welcome.
Thank you.
So typically on this podcast, we talk to clowns. We've talked to a couple of the Aerialists and the Gentile family at one point, but it's mainly about clowns. So I have to reorient my questions a little bit about to fit towards Ariel and the Uncle Junior Project, because I want to talk about both. I want to talk about your career as an aerialist and the Uncle Junior Project. So let's start off with what brought you to circus arts in the first place?
Wow. What to circus arts is growing up in San Francisco. I was exposed to make a circus or circus in the parks growing up as a youngster, and that was an event that me and my family attended every summer in our local park growing up in Visitation Valley area of San Francisco. We also went to Ringling every year when it came to the Cow Palace. So circus was definitely a part of my life and a big form of entertainment growing up. I became interested in circus as an art form, or at the time when I was younger, in the athleticism of circus when I was 14, when I joined the Make a Circus Teen Apprentice program. I auditioned for a clown, Queenie Moon, Joan Macon, and did some cartwheels, did a little bit of hula hooping. And I remember Joan Macon asking me to do something funny. I can't remember what I did, but I was in the program. And so I spent the summer of my 9th grade year in high school traveling with Make a Circus, and that was pretty much the start of my those are my circus beginnings. So it's interesting that I'm on a podcast geared for clowns, because clowns are very much so a part of my story in circus, and I love clowns. So you're gonna hear about a lot of clowns.
Great. Joan Macon was someone I loved very dearly and was very important to me. So it's always nice to hear her involved in other people's lives in different ways. What ended up bringing you to aerialism specifically?
Wow, another clown, Sarah Moore, invited me to audition as an aerialist for what was the 2001 summer season of Make a Circus, which up until that point, I started circus in 98, training in 98. I believed up until that point that I wanted to be an acrobat, and I wanted to do hoop diving and Chinese pole and things like that. But Sarah Moore decided that I should be an aerialist. And she took me out to lunch, and I had a cheeseburger and fries. And by the end of that lunch meeting, she had convinced me to train and audition to be an aerialist for Make a Circus. And that's actually how I got my start as a aerialist, another clown.
Well, that's great. That's amazing. And well, while we're still touching on your career, what brought you to the cruises?
So what brought me to the cruises? Wow, that it's kind of a funny, it's not really actually an interesting story at all. I had taken to producing shows as fundraisers for the Uncle Junior Project, and I had begun to do choreography, or assist with choreography, do some choreography, and help direct the San Francisco Youth Circus shows, as well as working with Katie Breyer's Contortion Intensive, which was basically choreographing acts. And a friend of mine that was aware of the work that I was doing as a director, as a choreographer, actually recommended me for the job. And I went through the process just like anyone else would. I had an hour audition, not audition, interview, which is like an audition. And I submitted my resumes and submitted examples of my work, and I was hired. So it's that story isn't that interesting, and it doesn't really involve any clowns.
I think it's really interesting. I think people are very I think people find the ways we get into our careers and the way we move through the different strata and spectrum of circus arts really appealing. I know I do. Let's talk about the Uncle Junior project. First off, what is, for those who don't know, the Uncle Junior project?
Yes, the Uncle Junior project is a project that I started 10 years ago. I was inspired by a man named Emmanuel Junior Ruffin. His nickname was Junior, which was given to him by Clyde Beatty or Clyde Beatty, depending on who you are. And Clyde Beatty was the one that trained Junior and how to train elephants, tigers, exotic animals, and also taught him to present in the circus ring as well. And so he became a junior, so the legend goes. I became a little obsessed with Junior's story after he passed away in 2010. And I started to do research on him and became like extremely curious of the stories of other performers like him, people of African descent that I didn't know about, or that I hadn't been able to come across in historical circus historical, books and things like that. I didn't know, I wasn't much of a researcher at that time. I was mostly Googling people, and results weren't turning up. And so I decided that I was going to travel the US, and I was going to document people myself and make sure that that the stories of these individuals, people that were pioneers in circus or people that had these extensive circus careers, make sure that their stories were told by them, not by another party, and that it would be available online for people to Google. And the reason for the interview format was to make sure, again, that no one else was telling their story after they passed away, but that people could tell their own stories, and you could actually see through video the mannerism in which they spoke and how they articulated things, inflections in storytelling, the funny faces that they make. I love clowns. I interview a lot of clowns, so I think the interview or the video format is a great way to capture the stories and the lives of people. So yeah, that is basically the Uncle Junior project in a nutshell. If you want to know more about the project, you can go to unclejuniorproject.com, and that's junior with a JR, project.com.
And yeah, I was looking through the website. You've got a lot of different artists on there that you've interviewed. Do you know about how many you've covered so far?
In total, when I first started, I interviewed a total of 20 people. So that is, we are still in post-production for a lot of the interviews that I have on my on my hard drive. So it is a process. Again, as I mentioned before, I was producing a lot of shows to fundraise for the project in the earlier days when I first got started. And each production of a video with an editor and graphics and things like that is not very cheap. So Uncle Junior Project runs and operates from donations from our supporters. So it is quite a process.
And I do video production work myself, and yeah, it can get up there. And you were talking about the faces in interviews. I find one of the hardest things about doing these interviews online is that you don't often get to see the faces. You don't often get to. It was before Zoom when I was doing podcasts over Skype and so on, and not everyone has a camera. You lose so much of the communication when you're not actually looking at when you can't actually look at the person that is talking to you. So a little bit more on Uncle Junior, and then I want to go back to talking about your motivation as an artist and your career. You've got the website split up into feature performers and Enchantment Entertainment. Can you explain Enchantment Entertainment?
Yes. Enchantment Entertainment is based on the exhibition I did in 2013 with the African American Arts and Culture Complex in the Fillmore District of San Francisco. So Enchantment Entertainment at the time in 2013 was an exhibition that highlighted performers of African descent from slavery until present day. So the exhibit was divided up into two sections, which the first section being ethnological show business, or the display of different ethnicities or different cultures of people for money. So meaning like the human zoos, for example. So beginning with that, and performers that were in the sideshow that were sold into show business through slavery, to people who were born with oddities and that were seen unusual, coming from sharecropping families, things like that, and changing their socioeconomic status by going into show business. And on the other side of that is the modern day performers that chose circus as an art form, and that went into circus, had these amazing careers, and are retired, or we even featured present day performers of African descent. So in the middle of this exhibit was Junior, who was painted on the wall, and he was there to kind of break up the we have to work in the circus as a roustabout to make money for our family, because we aren't making money sharecropping, or there is no money. The ethnological show business, the being sold into slavery, being a slave sold into show business. He was there to kind of break up that change in where it became an option, and where you could join the circus and become a feature performer as a choice, and not by having to do so for another reason, if that makes sense. And so thus you have Entrapment to Entertainment. So on the site, I decided to pay homage to that exhibition that I did in 2013, and also to the sideshow performers that have these incredible lives and stories that need to be told. And so that's why we have the two, what we're calling them, exhibits on the page. Ultimately, the UncleJuniorProject.com will be mapped out like a museum. And so the different sections of the museum will have different exhibits. And we're really excited about how we're going to expand our museum and build our museum in the next year.
That's amazing. And with the video, are you producing? I saw some of the smaller videos on the website. Are you producing a longer documentary film out of the project, or is it going to remain in separate, isolated stories?
Ideally, in my hearts of hearts, I would like to produce a feature-length film. Um, but for now, we will be producing mostly the mini documentaries on different performers and continuing our work with the articles that are included in Entrapment Entertainment, as well as a new Pioneers exhibit where we go into more academic papers, paper writing, and things like that.
Oh, that's really
Um,
cool.
yeah, but ultimately the big dream and the big goal, what we're planning for, is a feature length documentary um exploring Junior's life and how it's intertwined with my life and other performers that have come up after him.
That's amazing. And you said you're supported mainly by donations and donors. Are you doing a
Mhm.
Patreon or is it just individual donations?
It is, we are sponsored by, we are umbrellaed by Fractured Atlas. So we are a nonprofit, and through Fractured Atlas, we do, people can sign up to be a monthly donor, and or they can make a one-time donation, a tax-deductible donation. So we do have that set up for people who would like to donate. And yeah, that's pretty much it. We have a amazing store with really cute merchandise with basically everything, like everything that's purchased in the in the store goes right back into the project, as well. So we have those two avenues of ways that people can support us.
Um, okay, let's talk some more about you and your career as an aerialist and a circus performer. Um, what what is integral to your work? What what makes what's the best way to say this? It's easy for me to say it to a clown. What is
Mm.
integral to the work of a clown? But what is integral to the work of an aerialist? What makes your work the art that you do? If that makes any
Mm.
sense at all.
Yeah, it definitely does make sense. In the beginning, um, it was a lot of, when I first started, it was more of, look what I can do, look at me up here. But um, coming out on the other end of that, and realizing that I want to be more of an artist and not just an athlete. Um, what's what's really important to me is joy and creation, and having that time to create, um, and self-expression. So as long as I'm able to be myself on stage, and it doesn't matter like which version it is, like if it's the serious version or the playful version of Veronica, if it's the sexy version of Veronica, or if it's the, whatever contemporary version of Veronica, as long as I get to express those different sides of myself on stage, that gives me joy, and that challenges me. And yeah, I would say that that's the most important thing for me right now. That and challenging myself physically now has become very important to me as well.
Okay. That directly relates and is almost answers the next question, which is um, how do you know work is good before you get in front of an audience? In your own estimation, what's your litmus for the work that you're doing and knowing that the work you're doing is good, is the work that you want to be producing? How can you
Mm,
tell?
that's a really good question. I feel like that comes with, you don't really know that, but it gets better. It becomes clearer with when you mature in whatever you do. And in my case, it's being an aerialist, and it's circus, and it's directing at this point. When I work with different artists, I know that it's good when I see that they're comfortable. Um, and not just like, oh, they can relax, and they're not like shaking in any tricks, or too afraid to even walk on the stage. What I mean by being comfortable is that they have they are completely free in their movements. They are comfortable in their routines, meaning that that they can breathe through their tricks, that they can execute, and that they're comfortable enough, like looking out into the audience and having those still moments. So I think I'm kind of contradicting myself here, but I would say that work is good when it is comfortable for the artist, because if it's comfortable for the artist, then there's confidence in that, and that's gonna read to the audience. It's really telling when you put something on stage that has been rushed, and when the person isn't confident in what they're doing, they're not comfortable. For me, comfortable is synonymous with confident. You can see it right away if something is rushed. The person is sweating, they're panting, they are the movements aren't natural. They're stuttering in movement. They're stuttering with their voice. So I think that something is good and ready to go to the stage when the artist is comfortable, and that's with anything that they're expressing. They could be coming out doing like a Moulin Rouge Roxanne thing that is like super steamy and super passionate, and you have to give like all this explosive, jerky energy. It could be something, a piece that is swelling. It starts off very subtle and soft, and it swells at the end, and you need to reserve all your energy for the end. Like really seeing an artist that is comfortable and what they're doing is always a good sign. Sorry, that was a bit of a long-winded.
No, that's great. So, I mean, just to recap what you said, because I put it through my own lens of how I see it. You have to challenge yourself as an artist. You have to make yourself uncomfortable in the growth aspect. But when you put it up on stage, it's like that old adage: your trick should be at 2/3 of your skill level, right? You're not doing tricks that are at the top end of your skill level, because you're not going to land those tricks 100% of the time, or even 80% of the time. You want to go at 2/3. You want to go at the place that where you can embody all aspects of being a performer, the performative aspects, not just the athletic aspects, not just doing the tricks, but having the nuance and communication behind it. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, exactly.
So when you're creating new work, how do you go about creating new work for yourself? What's your process?
My process is to first understand the work as much as possible. So if I'm creating a new something or other for a big tented show, my first thought is like, okay, it's a big tented show. I need to fill this space. And my formula is exactly what you said. You're doing about 1/3 of the tricks. I like to focus, I call them pictures. I have 3 big pictures, and you can have more pictures in your act, but the 3 pictures are poses where if someone took a picture of you, you would look great. So I break the act down into a minimum of 3 sections. And some people would say a beginning, middle, and end, but it could be more than that. But initially I'll break it down into 3 sections. And then I will analyze the show, which I think a lot of artists, they don't do. So like if I'm performing for a traditional circus, I would take a look at the show structure, what kind of music typically works for that show, and see how what I do, not try to fit in, but how what I do fits into that show. If I was going to do something smaller, like a community show or a local show, then I would do something that is a little bit more self-indulgent. So I would pick that kind of moody emo music that or that emo song that I really loved listening to when I was 14, and I really want to do this aerial act off of it. But the and then I would make the movements smaller, and I would think about the stage or the area that I'm using, and how can I feel that and fill that space. And like the third thing that I would do, how am I gonna fill the space, what type of show it is, the three pictures. The next thing that I would think about is what is I don't know. I kind of what is like, what do I want the outcome to be?
Okay.
So what do I want the audience to feel? Like if it's on a cruise ship, the stage will be pretty big. The clientele they're 55 and up. You know, I'm using like a David Bowie song, you know, because that's already pre-written in there. I have to use it. It's like, what do I want to express? What do I want this audience to leave the venue feeling? So it's about knowing your venue and knowing the space, knowing what the end product, I hate to call it a product, but knowing what the show's formula is, and what you want people to feel after. So yeah, that's how I create.
That's great.
Well, because you get like some shows are very corporate. Some shows they want you to come in, and the music is already there, and the act is only 2.5 minutes or 3.5 minutes. And some shows you get to, and they want you to develop your own thing with the director, and some shows just want you to freestyle it. So it varies, but that's my general formula.
I don't think we really talked about this. Which aerial apparatuses do you perform?
Right now I'm mostly focused on aerial straps. I started off on static trapeze, dance trapeze. I went to duo silks. After duo silks, I left out rope. Actually, I actually really started aerial on rope. Duo aerial silks, duo swinging trapeze, though I'm not sure I can completely claim that because that was pretty short-lived. And then a solo, eventually I landed and stuck with solo aerial silks, and then started to develop and work with straps in like 2008 on a contract in Japan. Yeah.
What is the performance, or a performance, if not the performance, that you are most proud of? Or an act, or however you want to interpret that. And it doesn't have to be the most, but just one that you are particularly proud of.
Oh my gosh. I honestly don't think I have one. I think I'm most proud of the growth.
Great.
Like I'm very lucky to, to be in my late 30s and still being able to perform, and to be able to perform at a level where people still want to put me on stage. And as I grow in this business, I still feel like I'm growing in the entertainment business as an artist. I'm like the most proud of the growth that I've had, and the longevity that I've had.
Okay, cool. Within the circus world and circus community specifically, who are some of your heroes?
Wow. Some of my heroes. Again, I love clowns. So Paoli Lacey, who's one of my earlier mentors. Sarah Moore, Um, Pamela Hernandez, who was one half of the duo Satin, who was the first African American female duo aerial act on Ringling. They performed on Ringling for like 10 years. Bernice Collins, who's pretty much a jack of all trade on Ringling. Dolly Jacobs, who just only recently retired, who is just always so beautiful and so graceful and very grounded. Wow, so many people. I don't want to miss anybody, but just I really do like draw inspiration from a lot of people. My friend that I just got to spend a lot of time with, Marina Luna, is just who is just stunning, who started Circus a little bit later in life and has managed to create an award-winning international aerial act. And she just continues to be self-motivated and continues to be creative and continues to reinvent herself. I think in general, these are people that are in my life. I guess I like to surround myself with people that I admire, but there's a lot. I don't want to get stuck trying to name them all.
That's okay. I haven't seen Marina Luna in probably 10 years, so it's great to be reminded of her. So I normally would talk to people about what projects they've always wanted to do and haven't been able to, or what the next big project is. But we've been going through a lot of turmoil in the last couple of years. What's the next year look like for you as a creator, as an artist?
A big thing for me has been being able to like expand on what I do. So not just be an artist, but take an interest in directing and choreography, and taking an interest in research and in documentary filmmaking, taking an interest in baking bread, So for me, being like being creative for me is a joy, and it's a passion regardless of what medium that I'm working in. I could just be watching a documentary or educating myself or studying Japanese, and that to me that is creating. That's creating a different reality. That's creating that's just so much expansion there, and tools and things that you can use like wherever you are. So with that being said, 2020 I figured was the opportunity for me to be as fearless as possible and put myself out there as much as possible and not turn down any opportunities that came across my plate. And because of that, I was able to launch the Uncle Junior project after 10 years officially, and in a way that I thought would honor the project. Do tons of podcasts and do some work with Troop Vertigo and start to train again to physically push my limits and find what the silver lining is for me personally in 2020. And in 2021, I feel like I want to do more of the same thing. I want to continue to be fearless, and though we don't know what the future looks like, I'm planning on taking on every opportunity that suits me and that works for me and that expands what I do creatively head on, and not get too much in my head about the future.
That's cool.
So for 2021, the objective is to remain fearless and accept what I cannot change, and to remain creative, even if I have to create the art myself, or
I
so.
challenged myself last year to do one creative project every week for the year. I did it.
Nice.
And
Nice.
so now I'm on my second week of or my 54th week of doing a creative project every week. So yeah, it doesn't matter what it's baking bread, it's painting miniatures, it's podcasting, it's anything you can get your feet into, sink your
Yeah.
teeth.
No stress. I even started making like short aerial films last year. One was released as part of the San Francisco aerial festival with Zaco Dance Theater, and the second piece that I'm doing in conjunction with Little Boxes Theater, and it will feature a cast of all Black female aerialists and circus performers. So I'm really as long as I'm willing and able, I'm just going to try to stay in that joyous place, which is for me creating.
That's brilliant. And Zacho, that's Joanna Highgood.
Yeah, Joanna.
Yeah, I love her. She's amazing.
She is amazing. I'm currently working on a project with her at Grace Cathedral, which is, I don't want to say too much about it, but I mean, it's a rehearsal for a show that we don't exactly know when the show will happen, but working with Joanna, there's always a lot of research involved. So let's just say we're going to new heights inside of the Grace Cathedral, and I hope that in the late summer or the fall, people will be able to venture from their homes and see it.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah. So where can people find all your different work? Where can they find you?
Wow. Well, Veronica Blair Aerial.com is my site where you'll find like just the run-of-the-mill boring stuff, my bio and resumes and things like that. But I mostly post on Instagram with the cool thing. So you'll get like a lot of clips and a lot of visuals from me on Instagram. That's where you'll be able to find me.
Who are you on Instagram?
Veronica Blair Aerial.
Veronica Blair Aerial. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And Uncle Junior Project is unclejuniorproject.com.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Thought I had that right. Just want to make sure. Well, Veronica, it's been excellent talking to you. Before I let you go, 3 people that you would recommend having on the podcast.
Ooh, 3 people that I would recommend having on the podcast. I think who would be good? This is the no rush, right? Yeah. Okay, I'm like, oh my God. So let's see, Jonathan Lee Ireson is one.
Okay.
And then I would say Onionhead the Clown, Robert Dunn.
Great.
And he's hilarious. And one more person. Oh, Zachary Skeeter Reese. Skeeter the Clown, he was a member of the King Charles Troupe, who discovered clowning while working on Ringling, and he wanted to become a clown so bad, but due to politics, he had to leave the show for a year and then come back and audition for clown college. And he did that, and then he became a clown on Ringling for I believe 10 years or so, like that. But his story is amazing and like really, really interesting. We're working on a documentary about him right now as we speak for the Uncle Junior Project, but he's really funny. And his story is extraordinary. So he'll be great. So
I'll reach out to you later to get contact if you haven't, for those, so I can reach out to them. Veronica, thank you so much for being on Ridiculous. It was wonderful having you. Best of luck with everything.
Thank you so much.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us today on Ridiculous Life of a Clown. This program, as always, is made possible by your support through our Patreon, which you can find through www.picklewater.com. Theme song by Kevin MacLeod of Incompetech Music.